She whispered, "You'll be fine without me," then walked out the door with him by her side. I barely heard her voice over the pounding of my heart. It was the kind of moment where everything slows down and speeds up all at once, like the world is moving too fast, and yet you're stuck in place, unable to move. My breath hitched, caught somewhere between disbelief and heartbreak, as she stood there in the doorway, looking at me for the last time. I wanted to reach out, to grab her, to stop her, but my body refused to cooperate. She was slipping through my fingers like sand, and I couldn't hold on. What were you saying?" I finally managed, my voice rough, shaky, like I was underwater. My mind was spinning, racing to process her words, but they didn't make sense. "You're leaving me?" Her face softened, but not with affection. No, it was a sadness, a resignation. She looked at me with those big, dark eyes that had once been full of so much love, and now they were full of pity. She glanced over her shoulder at him. I could barely make out his figure behind her, but I didn't need to see his face. I knew exactly who he was. Ethan, her co-worker. The one she had told me was just a friend. The one I had seen so many text messages with. The one she swore she was only close to because of work. And now, here he was, standing behind her like a shadow, his presence looming over us in the dim hallway light. "Jake," she said, almost too softly, like she was afraid to break the silence that had settled between us. "You'll be fine without me. You'll find someone who can give you what you need. I can't do this anymore." The words hit me like a punch to the gut. I felt like I was choking on the emptiness in my chest. I opened my mouth to speak, but no words came. What could I say? What could I do when she had already made up her mind? She wasn't even looking at me anymore. She was focused on the ground, on the space between us, and then she looked back at Ethan. My stomach twisted into knots as I watched him take a small step forward, closer to her, closer to the exit, and closer to everything that I thought I had with her. I could feel the heat rising in my face, my ears ringing with the sound of my own heartbeat. My brain was screaming at me to say something, to do something, but I was frozen. She was walking away from me, and I couldn't make her stop. She stepped out the door, and before I knew it, the soft click of the door shutting behind her echoed in the silence of our apartment. I didn't know how long I stood there, just staring at the empty doorway. I wasn't sure if I was breathing anymore. I wasn't sure what was real. It had been months since the last time we'd been this distant. Our conversations had dwindled from late-night talks about the future to barely speaking over dinner. There were moments when I thought she was pulling away, but I convinced myself it was just a phase, just work stress, just life. But now, standing there alone, I couldn't ignore the truth anymore. She had been planning this. She had been planning to leave, to be with him, and I was too blind to see it. I let myself believe in the lies she told me. He's just a co-worker. There's nothing going on. You're stressing too much. She was right. I was stressing too much, but I hadn't been wrong. I wasn't imagining things. She had been pulling away from me, bit by bit, and now here I was, standing in the wreckage of a relationship I had thought would last. I collapsed onto the couch, my hands gripping the armrests as if they were the only thing holding me up. I didn't want to cry. I didn't want to feel any of this, but the tears came anyway. I wasn't sure if they were for her, for me, or for the life we had built together that was now crumbling in front of me. I pulled my phone from my pocket, not sure what I was hoping to find. Some explanation, some reason to keep holding on, to keep believing in us. But there was nothing there. No new texts, no new messages. Just the remnants of the conversations we'd had before everything started slipping away. I scrolled through my messages, and then I saw it. The last message she had sent me, a few hours before this all went down. "I just need some space. I don't know what I want right now. I think I need to figure things out." I had tried to be patient. I had tried to give her the space she needed, even when it felt like she was disappearing right in front of me. Now I realized it wasn't space she needed, it was an exit, and she'd already made up her mind about where she was going. I closed my eyes, the pain of it all sinking in deeper, cutting through me. I wanted to scream, to shout, to ask why Ethan? Why not me? But in the end, I already knew the answer. I wasn't enough anymore. It was only after a few minutes, once the shock started to wear off, that the anger crept in. How could she do this to me? How could she be with him after everything? I had been there for her through thick and thin, supporting her dreams, her career, all of it. And this was how it ended? I took a deep breath, my fists clenched at my sides. I wasn't sure what I was angry at, the fact that she betrayed me, or the fact that I had let myself believe in her. Either way, I couldn't keep sitting there, feeling sorry for myself. I had to get up. I had to do something. I grabbed my jacket off the couch, my mind already made up. I wasn't going to let this be the end of everything. I wasn't going to sit here and cry about it. I had a life to live, too. I could move on, even if it felt impossible right now. I could find my own way. As I headed out the door, I saw a note on the kitchen counter, half hidden under a pile of papers. I picked it up, my hands trembling as I unfolded it. It was from Clara, a letter written in the kind of neat handwriting I had always admired. Jake, I'm sorry. I never wanted to hurt you. I know this will probably never make sense, but I need to be honest with you. I've been in love with him for a while now, and I can't keep pretending. I wish things had turned out differently, but I can't keep living a lie. Please forgive me. I hope you can understand. Goodbye. The words blurred as my eyes filled with tears once more, but this time they were different. This wasn't the shock of betrayal anymore. This was the beginning of letting go. I took a deep breath, steadying myself. I couldn't change what had happened. I couldn't change her choice. But I could change how I moved forward. And for the first time in a long time, I decided to choose myself. Part 2. The days that followed felt like I was moving through a fog. The apartment, once filled with the comforting hum of our daily routines, now felt like a cold, empty shell. Every little detail reminded me of Clara, her favorite mug sitting abandoned on the kitchen counter, the pillow she used to hug at night, the faint smell of her perfume still lingering in the bathroom. It was as if she had never left, but I knew she was gone. I could feel it deep in my bones. I don't know why, but I couldn't bring myself to pack up her things. It felt like if I did, I'd be closing a chapter one wasn't ready to face. But every corner of the apartment felt like a wound I couldn't avoid, a reminder of the life I had tried to build with her. I found myself obsessively scrolling through old photos of us, our vacations, birthdays, holidays, each one a slap to the face of the reality I was now living in. The hardest part was going to work. I had always been excited to see her at the end of the day, to come home and hear about her day, her challenges, her little victories. But now everything felt hollow. I tried to keep busy at work, but even the smallest task felt like a mountain. I couldn't focus, couldn't concentrate, and the thought of going home to an empty apartment made my stomach churn. Ethan's name seemed to haunt me. At first, I tried to avoid it, pretend it didn't exist, but it was everywhere. I would run into people at work who mentioned him, or I'd hear his name in passing. Each time, it felt like a punch in the gut. He was the one who had taken her away, the one she had chosen when she made the decision to walk out of the door. And yet, in the quiet of my apartment, when everything was still, I would question myself. Was I really angry at Ethan? Or was I more angry at Clara? Angry that she didn't trust me enough to be honest. Angry that she had hidden things from me. Angry that after everything we had shared, she had chosen to walk away so easily. In my darker moments, I wanted to blame him for everything, but I knew deep down that I couldn't. Clara had made the decision. It was her who had betrayed me, not him. A week passed before I heard from Clara. It was late in the evening, and I was sitting on the couch, staring at the TV without really seeing it. I had finally started to get a little more sleep, though it was restless, plagued with dreams of her, of us, together, and then torn apart. My phone buzzed on the coffee table, the screen lighting up with a message notification. Clara. I hesitated. I wasn't sure what to expect, but my heart was already pounding in my chest. I had barely talked to her since that night. Jake, can we talk? I stared at the message for what felt like forever. I had promised myself I wouldn't respond to her right away, that I wouldn't just let her waltz back into my life on her terms. But the truth was, a part of me wanted answers. A part of me was still holding on to the hope that we could work through this, no matter how irrational that might have been. I took a deep breath, trying to push past the emotions that were threatening to drown me. What's there to talk about, Clara? I replied, "You made your choice." I don't know what else there is to say. It felt good to type those words, like I was taking control of the situation for once. I waited, trying to breathe through the anxiety that was creeping up my chest. A few minutes later, my phone buzzed again. I don't know how to explain everything, Jake. I never meant for it to turn out this way. I need to see you. Please. I stared at the message for a long time, unsure what to do. A part of me wanted to meet her, to hear her out, to find out what had really been going on in her mind. But another part of me was terrified. Terrified that hearing her voice again would unravel the fragile peace I had started to build for myself. Terrified that I would let her back in, only to be hurt all over again. I'm not sure I can do that, Clara. I waited for a response, the minutes stretching out in front of me. Please, Jake. I'm sorry for everything. I'll explain. Just please. I need to see you. I rubbed my eyes, suddenly exhausted. I knew that if I met her, I would have to face the truth. The truth of what she had done, what I had allowed, what we had become. But I didn't know if I was ready to hear it yet. I didn't know if I could look at her and see anything other than the woman who had walked away from me, the woman who had chosen someone else over me. But then I thought about the relationship we had, the years we'd spent together, the memories, the plans, the life we had shared. Part of me still wanted to believe that all of that meant something. Fine. I typed, my fingers trembling. We can meet, but I'm not making any promises. I need to hear you out, but I'm not sure what that changes. It wasn't an easy decision, but it felt like the only one I could make. I needed closure. I needed to hear her say the things she couldn't say when she left. I needed to know why she'd made that choice. And maybe I needed to see if there was any chance for us to salvage something from the wreckage. We agreed to meet at a cafe in the afternoon. I spent the morning pacing around the apartment, trying to distract myself from the whirlwind of thoughts and emotions. I couldn't stop thinking about the dinner reservation, the secret dates, the lies she had told me. Part of me was still so angry, still so confused about how she could do this to me. But when I walked into the cafe and saw her sitting there, waiting at a table by the window, I couldn't help but feel a rush of conflicting emotions. She looked different. It wasn't just the way she looked, though she had a certain emptiness in her eyes that hadn't been there before. But the space between us felt heavy. There was a distance now that wasn't there before, and I wasn't sure if it could ever be bridged again. She looked up as I approached, her face softening when she saw me, but it was a hesitant softness, like she wasn't sure how I'd react. "Jake," she whispered, as I sat down across from her. "Thank you for meeting me." I nodded, keeping my distance both physically and emotionally. I wasn't ready to hear whatever it was she had to say, but I needed to listen, for my own sake. "I'm not sure where to start," she said, looking down at her hands before meeting my eyes. "But I owe you an explanation, at least. And I need you to know that it wasn't just about Ethan." I waited for her to continue, my stomach in knots. But I wasn't sure I was ready to hear her explanation. I wasn't sure I could believe anything she said anymore. Still, I knew one thing. I was done being in the dark. If there was any part of this relationship that was worth saving, I needed to understand it first.